Welcome CSC230 W1 to part 3 of our Jumbotron exercise, ex7 for fall 2021. And we're just building our HTML content right now. And what we did in the first video was just set up our 4 sections, and we set up elements, nav, header, section, footer elements, and we gave them class names. Even if they're redundant, we gave them class names because that way they'll all have class names, especially if they have multiple classes applied to them, and we'll just use that. Plus, they're more specific and they're more descriptive of what we're doing. So header, you may look at the header and think, oh, well, that's the top, but we have the banner, the nav, the main, the footer. That should make a little more sense. So we're going to do that, and that is done in web design, so we're going to do that. And what we're going to do now is just start putting in some content. And we'll just go from the top down. We'll put in company name. You could put whatever you want. I'll just leave it at company name. And then home, about, pricing, contact. A real basic kind of landing kind of web page kind of thing. Not a whole lot of details, no submenus or anything like that. Just home, about, pricing, contact. A very basic kind of brochure website that we're building here. So let's do that. And not that it'll be easy, but what we're going to do first is just put our H1. So we're going to hit return after this, so it's indented, and we'll just do H1. And you could even put a class name. You could always do class names if you want. So you could just do company name, if you want, and hit tab. You don't have to style the class, or you can. You could style the H1, or you could style company name if that's more descriptive. And I'll put a return here, and it's just going to say company name. So that's it, company name. And then after the H1, on the same level, we're going to put our navigation. Now, there's different ways you could do navigation. We could do multiple buttons and float them. What we're going to do is we're going to use a list, an unordered list. We're going to take away the bullet and just put it inline. We'll use inline block, and then we'll just float the entire list to the right of that. Or we'll try flex, whatever's easier. We'll stick with whatever's easier here, but we'll start by just kind of doing this so it at least aligns in one line. Now, that's going to be CSS, which is going to do that. So right now it's just going to look like a bullet list. So let's just do that first. And that's just going to be a UL. And remember, we use that arrow. And if we want 4 line items, we'll put line item or list items and use asterisk 4. And we can put content if you want. If you want to put a curly brace and just put home. That way you have something to kind of replace at least. And they'll all say home right now. Now, I'll put my cursor after that and hit my tab key, and it didn't work. So if it ever doesn't work, just do it over. Now I'll hit tab. Now it's working. And it has UL, open and closing tags, and there's my 4 line items, and it's going to say home, about, pricing, contact, I think. I think that's what we had. Doesn't matter. This is just kind of a template. And if we looked at it, if I'll hit run, and again, I don't think you have to hit run. I'm just doing it like a save. But when you go here and you refresh, there's company name and there's our list. So right now it's still as a bulleted list, an unordered list, which is going to change. And that's all we need out of here. We're not going to do any styling yet. We're just going to get all our content in there. So we'll keep moving on. And now we have a welcome. We have a headline, which has about 20 words, I believe. I think there's about 20 words here, and then a button. So we're going to put a headline that says welcome. Now that's no longer in nav. So we're leaving nav. We're done with nav for now. And we're moving down to this area, the header element, which has a name of banner because that's more descriptive. And again, instead of trying to tab over here, although you could tab over, I'm going to put in an H1 because it's starting off with an H1. I'll just hit tab. I don't know if I necessarily need a class name for that, but I'll just put welcome in there. There's my... put an exclamation mark, and then after that there's a paragraph, and if you remember, we're going to go P, and then inside there we're going to use some of that lorem ipsum stuff, lorem, and we'll do lorem 20, and I think that's it. I think just P, lorem 20, hit tab, and there we go. And after that we have a button, again on the same level, so we're just going to type button and hit tab, and we'll see if we need classes for these buttons. We may, but just for now it says see more, so we'll just put that in there, and that's all we should need for now. Now you could do this. You could put a button on its own line like this, because technically it is an inline item, I believe, but for now I'll leave it like that. I'll leave the button, the see more button, like that. And that's all we should need for there. Let's check it out. Let's refresh it and check it out. And it has see more. And notice the button does have a default kind of hover state to it where it gets dark gray. So you don't have to do a whole lot of styling if you don't want to, although this is going to be a main button that's going to take us into our site. So we will probably style that and give it kind of a class. We'll probably have a button style for the button element, and then we'll probably have some button classes so we could style them a little bit different, because if you remember, this one's bigger and orange, and these are smaller and they're kind of gray, and they have that little transition on them which we can add. So we'll probably do that later, but maybe all the buttons will have similar things like a transition, like round corners, something like that, and then do them a little bit more individual as we go. But for now, we're not worrying about styling. Okay, so now that's all we have for our banner. Now we have our column areas, and that's all going to be inside of this section class, which is going to use the class name main. Again, click here, and if you want to tab in, that's fine. And I'll put an H1. Now you could do all of it at once if you want to. You can do H1, and then as a child of H1, you could put P, and inside the P as a child of P, you could put lorem. I think I used 30 for those. And let's see how that works. Now, it's not really a child of that. Let's just see how this works. I'll hit tab and just see if that's what I want. H1, and then, actually it's not what I want, because I don't want a P inside there. Using those arrows make a child of it, so I don't really want that, and I'll undo that. Actually, I think if you do want them next to each other, and I'm just kind of doing the Emmet off the top of my head, I think if you want them the same level, you put a plus. It would be H1, and then after that is a P, and then inside the P is the lorem 30. So let's see how that works. And I'll go back and just replace the 0 there, then hit tab. And that's what I want. I want a separate H1, I want a separate P, and then I could have put a plus and a button, but I'm just going to put a button after here, and just button, and hit tab. And inside the button here, it's just going to say view details. So they're all going to be the same, and with just two little arrows. So inside here, I'll just put view details, and I'll just put two little arrows after them. All right, so that's one of our columns. Now, one thing we didn't do here, and I forgot to do, is we should be making a div class, because remember, these things in here, I just put an H1. These are going to be divs so that we can float them next to each other, or we can use flex. So these should actually be a div called column, and the way we've done it before. So I forgot to do that, and that's okay. I'll forget things as I do this. And now how do we do it after the fact? Well, I'll go here, and I'll hit enter, and I'll put div.call, and I'll hit tab. And there's my div. Now I'm going to take this closing div and cut it and put it after the button and paste it there. Now, remember, we can also have a generic call and then call one, or we could put the main name. I think what I'm going to try and do is put the more specific name first, like call one, and then a space, and use a class name of call, which is going to be general. So we're using the more specific. So I'll just call that call one for now. Let me just skip this, and I'll just call it call one. And remember, these are all going to be child. Now, if we left it like this, it's okay, but what I'm going to do now is just kind of tab all that stuff in, because that should all be child of call one of that div. They're going to be inside that div. Now you could just copy all this stuff and paste it, or let's just try it again. Let's try another one. The more practice you do, the better. So after this div, we're going to put another div, and let's see if I could type it all at once. I could say div.call2, and then inside there, and if it's inside, use an arrow. That means we'll have an H1, and then at the same level, use a plus and a P. And then inside the paragraph, we'll put lorem 30 again. Maybe you want to do lorem 28, just make them a little different. And then after that, on the same level, we could put plus button. And right away, I'll hit tab and see what happens here. Oh, that looks good. That's actually what I want, except button, oh, button went inside there. Button went inside the P for some reason, so just make sure we pull that out, cut that. I'm not sure, I'd have to look at the video to see what I did wrong there, or undo it, but either way, I'm going to put the button here. The button should be at the end like that one, and I'll type in view details, or if you want to just copy this, at this point, so you don't make any mistakes, I'll just paste in that view details. And that's right. And let's try one more time. Hey, the more you practice, the better you get at this stuff. So let's try, after this div, we'll go div. And maybe that'll help you understand it better. Div with a class name of call3. And then inside that div is going to be a P. And inside the P is going to be lorem, let's go 30 again. And then we're not going to be inside there, we're going to say plus, and I think I went inside, so I'm going to put plus button, and we'll see how that works, unless it's putting the button and that inside there. So I'm not sure how the lorem is ending and how the button is beginning. That may be the problem, so the same thing must happen there. So I think I did it right, but either way, it's better than typing all of it, so let's hit tab. And it did the same thing, so I'm not sure. I'll have to try that and see what the best thing is to have the button after that, because it's putting the button inside the lorem, inside the paragraph there. So I'll just cut that, not a big deal, and put it after. And again, that's our structure that we want for this stuff here. So we want inside our section class main, we want basically 3 divs, column 1, column 2, column 3, and inside each div is going to be an H1, a paragraph, and a button that says view details. Now, I didn't put anything inside of the H1, and I don't think I did other than column A, column B, column C. And I could just do that for now. Just put in column A, or you could put something else there. It doesn't matter. And, oh, I guess I missed the H1 down there. I forgot the H1 down here. I put in the P. So I'm making mistakes, but at least I'm noticing them. So that's why, maybe doing all that stuff all together, just do one at a time. It doesn't help if I screw up. If I make a mistake, it doesn't really save me time. So now I have to put H1, hit tab, and then inside here, I'll just put column 3. So I have my 3 divs inside the main section element, which its class name is main, and 3 divs, call 1, call 2, call 3, and they'll also have another class name, call, which will share all of their properties. It will be more of a common kind of class. These will be more individual. And then inside my button, I'll just put view details again, and I'll paste that inside there, and I'll hit my run button and refresh it, and that's kind of what I want. Now everything's stacked. It's all vanilla, generic right now, and the last thing I'll do is I'll just do my footer. So I'm done with that part there, and in my footer, it looks like I just used copyright 2021 CSC230 class 230W1, whatever, Warren County Community College, whatever you want. It's not a big deal. Just remember we use that ampersand copy semicolon to make that C symbol. And if you're ever unsure, just look up, HTML symbols. Just go to W3 Schools and look up HTML symbols. But we'll try to remember that one. We'll go in here, and I'll put a P in here. I'll hit tab, and I'll put a P, and just hit tab again. So this will be a paragraph inside here, and I'll put copyright, so I'll put ampersand copy, and it's coming up here, so I'll click on it, and then I'll do a space 2021. So anyway, there's a copyright 2021. I'll put CSC 230 W1. I'm not going to put fall, because who knows, people might be doing this in the spring. And I could put a, even a vertical slash, and just put Warren County Community College. We'll put that in there, and it looks like I'm putting in zeros for O's, and that looks good. And this will be something that'll be small at the end. Wow, I put in zeros for all my O's, and that's good for now. So let's run it and let's check it out. Let's see what we have. Refresh it. There it is. We have all our content. So this is all our content that's on here. So all we have to do now is just style it. Now, we didn't put in a background picture yet. That'll be something we'll do later. And we didn't color it and all that, but that's what we're going to start doing. Now, before we start doing color, we're going to make sure it's laid out correctly and it has the look. Before colors and things like that, we'll make sure it's laid out so that our navigation or our buttons are on one line like that. This is on the left, that's on the right. These are 3 columns. We'll make sure we get all that set up first before we do anything else, worrying about colors too much. So that's going to be our next step. So we'll be doing CSS in part 4. So right now, this is the end of part 3. I'll stop here. This is our HTML. And in part 4, we're going to make our styles, or whatever you want to call it, style.css, and we're going to link to it, and we're going to start building our classes and elements and styling, all that stuff. There's going to be a lot of stuff to do here, a lot of CSS to do, but it'll be fun. And some of it will be a little trial and error. We'll see what works, what doesn't, and we'll keep working towards making it look like this. So we'll see it in part 4.